Head of the Alucard vampire family, Rachel is a character with great zoning tools, set play, 50-50 mix-ups, corner carry, and good damage. Being able to control the wind, Rachel is capable of running away, manipulate her projectile's momentum, and go for hard-to-react high-low mix-ups up close. Rachel's drive is Sylphid. Rachel can summon a gust of wind that can go in 8 cardinal directions. Rachel starts off the round with 4 uses of her drive. Wind gauge regenerates over time, but slower in the air. The wind directly affects Rachel's movement, her projectile's momentum, and opponent's position while hit. The opponent rarely gets affected by the wind if in a neutral state, and the projectiles are unaffected. This drive gives Rachel 2 versatile playstyles: either retreat in the air while throwing projectiles, or use the down direction wind to go for instant overheads with JA and JB. Rachel's overdrive, Elfried, increases the recovery on wind gauge and adds more damage and properties to Rachel's supers. All Rachel's specials and supers are mainly zoning tools that apply lingering pressure. With the right usage and placement, Rachel can become a threat from any part of the screen. All specials can also be done in the air. 236A, B, and C. Tiny Lobelia is a projectile that has a hitbox and leaves behind a rod on the ground. On the ground, the A version is shot close, while C version is shot farther away. If done in the air, C is the closest and A is the furthest. 236A has faster startup but longer recovery. Both 236B and C have the same frame and recovery data. Both have slower startup but recover faster. There can only be 3 rods out at any time and don't disappear until activated. If the projectile bounces off the corner, it refreshes its active frames, making it a 2-hit move. You can also use drive to change the speed, angle, and location where the projectile is sent. There are 2 specials that use the rods placed by 236A, B, or C. 22A, Barrel Lotus, transforms all rods into bats with 1 hit. If the opponent is hit or blocks the bat, then the bat will stay on them for 7 seconds. The tracking bat is an essential tool for controlling neutral, since the bat, or rods, can detonate a lightning strike with 214C Sword Iris. Sword Iris summons bolts of lightning on the location of the rods, bats, or lobelia before hitting the ground. Each bolt has a vertical hitbox extending to the ceiling and makes Rachel at the very least +2 on block. 214A, George the 13th, sends out a frog that slowly walks forward. If George is close to the opponent, then he stays in place and shocks himself and the opponent for 6 hits. This is mainly used for Oki, but can be done full screen. Rachel's drive can also affect the speed of George, usually accelerating him forwards towards the opponent. It should be noted that George has 750 health and takes unscaled damage. 214B, Ivy Blossom, sends out a coffin which releases 10 poison bats when it touches the ground. These bats will deal 500 unscaled damage over time as long as the opponent does not barrier. This move is mainly used for corner pressure and in combos in order to extend the damage without affecting the hit scaling. 62146B, Tempest Dahlia, summons a flurry of projectiles. The number of projectiles increase with the amount of wind stock she has when activated. While the super is slow and easy to block, Rachel will mainly use this to regenerate 2 stocks of wind. Rachel can then use the stocks later or engage with the storm of projectiles to start her offense. 62146C, Baden Baden Lily, is a plus on block super that summons multi-hitting bolts of lightning on top of Rachel and on any placed rods. This is mainly used to reset pressure or in the corner for high damage combos. 5B is an important normal for Rachel. Not only does this move destroy single level projectiles, but it can also be jump cancelled on hit or block. This move enables 50-50 high-low mixes with the use of 2B and JA. JA is an overhead that is used for her instant overhead. After jumping from 5B, input 2 or 3A and drive at the same time. Rachel will then fall towards the ground fast enough to land and confirm into a knockdown combo. If the opponent starts blocking high, then go to 2B for the low option. This move will scale better than JA and leads into a standard combo. If your opponent does block the 2B, you can still go into Rachel's 6B or 5BB, which is also jump cancelable on hit or block. The JA overhead will not be instant however, and you must use the 3 direction for the drive. 2C acts more like a DP rather than an anti-air. Rachel has full guard points from frame 5 to 35 and will shock the opponent if hit. This move cannot be special cancelled on hit or block and is -34. 6A is an anti-air with guard point rather than head invuln. This move can also be used in combos with instant air dash JB JC. 4B is an overhead that is mainly used after the 6A instant air dash combo route. You can also use this far away and catch an opponent off guard by using your drive to move forward. 3C is a sweep that normally has 3 hits. If you hold the move, it gets 7 hits. This is mainly used as combo enders to set up George. You can move further with 6D and pick the opponent up with 2D to combo. The fight against Rachel can be a frustrating one due to her movement options, zoning, and 50-50 pressure. The most important factor when dealing with Rachel is knowing how much wind gauge she has. It is unrealistic to block every 50-50 mix, but even one block of the instant overheads is huge since Rachel has to spend an extra resource. Rachel loses some of her potential when she is low on wind gauge. When dealing with Rachel full screen, you need to get in on her before she can generate her entire wind gauge. This means you need to maneuver through George, rods, and bats. If you can, try to bait Rachel by running towards the rod and backdash. It's obviously very bad to be directly on top of a rod when she activates it. Most of the time, full screen, she'll transform the rods into bats. This does depend on the matchup, but most 3C normals are able to deal 750 damage in order to kill George. Sometimes Rachel will jump in with George. If she does this, use a move that does not whiff on the ground to cover her and the frog. If Rachel has her instant overhead pressure down, then it's impossible to fuzzy jump out of the block stream. However, this is not gapless. If you have a reversal, you can challenge after the 5B. If you instant block 5B, you can challenge with an anti-air. Some Rachel players to watch are the Arm, Tetsuo, and Eno.